Okay. Maybe she would.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Awesome. Okay, cool. Good stuff. So I kind of wanted to put this talk together just to kind of like recap everything that we talk about, because we kind of send out those stress and sleep information. Some people are like, oh, why do we have to do this? And then with the diet and exercise piece, there's so many components in order for us to actually see weight loss and see for us to maintain long term. And so instead of doing something that was temporary, like a Jenny Craig or like that Nutrisystem, I find that, situations like that, or when people sign up for that, it's only good for the duration that they actually do it, because once you go on a vacation or you don't eat out of those packaged meals, it only works for the duration of when you're actually doing it, which is not our point for this program. We want to go in and, like Annie said, kind of meet you where you are, find your goals, find your challenges, what you kind of need to work on, so that we can change those habits over the course of the 5 weeks, so that when you leave from here, your behavior is different. Because when we think of food out of emotion or convenience, then we're always usually going to make poor choices. But if we think of more of like food is my fuel and getting me closer to my goal, then you're going to be like, oh, should I be eating this? Or maybe I should make a better choice, or maybe I can decrease my portions. And those are going to help you just to change that behavior long term. So when we have certain foods that creep into our diet, let's say every night we want to have a glass of wine, or I have a client that I train, and she is not going to see results, because I can train with her 5 days a week, but she drinks 4 glasses of wine every night, and she refuses to give it up, and she's so resistant against it. And I'm like, all right, you can keep giving me money, I guess, but you're not going to see results because you're not changing that behavior. So when we find things like that creep in our diet that we do every day, then those are not, it needs to be a treat, but they become habits. And so that's a habit that we do every single day. If you know every day you're going to have like a cookie at 3 o'clock, well, just taking that cookie away is only going to last for so long. We have to replace it with a better alternative, which is like a protein bar is a great alternative. Because if you replace that cookie with celery sticks, that's only going to last so long. It's not fun. So you have to replace it with something that's kind of similar. So when we incorporate like stress, sleep, exercise, nutrition, what happens is when we can kind of get a balance of all of those, then we're going to see a really healthy circle. So I'm going to start at the top with, and Sharon, I'm just kind of drawing like a little bit of a graph. And at the top of the graph, and it's kind of like a big circle, is weight gain. So when we start to see our pants are fitting tighter, we have gained a little bit of weight, and we're kind of like frustrated, we start to stress. So a lot of times when we have more stress, then we're stressing over little things, and it causes us to not want to exercise as much, or just kind of like give up. Okay, so if that is going to decrease our exercise, a lot of times it can be a vicious cycle in a positive way or in a negative way. So obviously when we exercise less, then most of the time your diet is going to be even more poor. And if we were to reverse that, so I'm just going to put poor diet. And tell me if I'm wrong, but a lot of times when you have a healthier diet, you're a little bit more motivated to exercise. And when you're exercising, let's say you exercise first thing in the morning, then hopefully you're a little bit more motivated to make better choices, make healthier choices, because you're like, dang, I already started my day off right. I'm going to try and continue that throughout the day. So then when we have a poor diet, as my circle isn't like really complete, right in the middle here, when we have a poor diet, what happens is our sleep is lower quality. Sorry, my writing is awful. So when we have a poor diet, and obviously if we're gaining weight, then we're not going to have as good quality of sleep. If we have too many carbs at night, then we're going to wake up and we're going to feel fatigued. You're going to have bags under your eyes. It's not going to be that good quality sleep, opposed to shifting your carbs, let's say a little bit earlier in the day, and you're eating cleaner at night, you're going to have a better sleep. So then when our sleep decreases, then we're going to gain more weight. So it's like a constant cycle, which is why it's that much more important to have different factors that we can apply that can decrease our stress, that we can get better sleep, and in turn we can get a little bit more exercise and continue to eat healthier. So I just want to talk for a second about some of the factors of what we can do to kind of like decrease your stress. And I put like some of the effects that stress have on our body. We don't even realize like all of the damages that stress can cause in our body. We all have cancer cells, and just by we all have millions and millions of cancer cells, just a matter of if they mutate and like glob together to be able to form even more cancerous cells. Then in turn, we get breast cancer or whatever kind of cancer. And a lot of that starts by having a lot of stress or not having like a positive outlook, because that stress is really going to cause more detriment to our health. So not only cancer, headaches, high blood pressure, diabetes, skin conditions, asthma, all of that is caused by stress. So if we isolate ourselves from others and we don't deal with stress in a positive way, then again, this is going to continue to cycle. So as far as decreasing stress, it's very, very hard for you ladies because you have a lot going on and you have a lot on your plate. And Sharon, I've talked to you a couple times about, just the amount of stress that you have in your life, and it's overwhelming. And we have to take it, you have to take it day by day and know that, for me, I always have that perspective is there's never going to be anything that I can't get through. I just have to know I just have to take it day by day and know it's always going to work out, because we've made it this far and we're standing today and it's been able to work out. So sometimes you just need to get by yourself, even if you close yourself in the bathroom, and take some breaths and count to 10. It was funny because I was talking to my sister the other day and she was reading this article about her, like if you lose your child in a mall or something like that, and then how all of a sudden you start to panic and your heart is just racing. And they say a lot of times all you need to do is before you start screaming and running around like a lunatic, just stop, breathe, and start counting to 10. And usually by number 8, you find your kid. But you're just like stressing and frantically running around. Sometimes you just need to take that breath and be like, it's going to be okay. Everything's going to be okay. What's the first thing that I can do to kind of start decreasing my stress? And the first thing that our brain wants is simple carbs or sugar. That's why we always crave, like, just give me some candy, give me a donut, give me something like that, because that's the brain food that is the easiest way for us to kind of decrease that stress. The second one is usually alcohol. So we need to flip that and think, okay, what is a stressor, a stress reliever that we don't necessarily have to go to food for? Again, if you can just kind of like shut the door, count to 10, if you can meditate for a second, if you can pray, if you can read a book, take a bath, if you have a little bit more time, those things are going to help decrease your stress, but it's not going to be as instant as food or alcohol. You just have to realize that. So you just have to take that second to be able to like, okay, let me just find what I need. Sometimes it's a matter of writing it down, maybe going on your phone on Facebook, giving you 5 minutes just to do what you need to do to be able to help decrease that stress. So find something for you. Sometimes it's journaling or just writing down or taking notes or asking what is stressing me, or having another friend or someone else that's in a similar situation, like all of us ladies all of you ladies in this group, of just reaching out and be like, man, if I'm really stressed, can I just reach out and just let me vent for a second? Yeah, absolutely. Let's use each other for that. Or like when your mother's in town, you can vent to her. So always have someone like that you can reach out to. Exercising regularly, huge stress decreaser. So making it that much more important. We have to remember it's not just about trying to lose the weight. Exercise is such a huge piece just to have longevity of life, and to be able, obviously we want to see some weight loss, but to decrease stress, that's a huge factor. So then you're a better mom, you're a better wife, and you're better to your family because you're actually putting that at the top of your priority list. So it needs to be a structure, or just another appointment in your appointment book. So whether you have to go to the doctor or the dentist, try and make that gym or walking just as much of a priority, because it is. Because the last thing you want is in a couple months for your doctor to be like, you need to start exercising, you lose 20 pounds because you're pre-diabetic. So if you're pre-diabetic, you can control that through diet and exercise and it can go away. But once you're full-blown diabetic, you're full-blown diabetic. So you don't want it to come to those circumstances. We want to make sure that it's a priority for you. So exercise is a big piece. And finding an exercise that you enjoy. For me, I don't enjoy standing on an elliptical and staring at a wall. I can't. So I'm like, okay, if I can get outside or enjoy like the outdoors or work out with friends or maybe be in a pool or go hiking, find something you enjoy, because guess what? We got to exercise and get some type of physical activity the rest of our life. So it's just a matter of finding something that you really enjoy. And hopefully we can find something, with your babies or with your kids that you can do as well. Once your kids get older, you can ride bikes together. Fun stuff like that you actually look forward to doing is really, really important. The next thing about decreasing stress is organizing your life. Whether it's getting like a whiteboard and you put it on the fridge and you're like, okay, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, at 9 o'clock I'm working out, and at least one day a week on Thursday, okay, I can go to the grocery store. At least you'll feel better. I always feel better when I have a little bit more organization of my week. I don't know what I would do without my calendar and my phone. It is just like, it is my everything. So having something like that, so at least I know what I'm doing day to day, because you have to have, how much structure you guys have for your kids. You have them on such a great structure of like sleep and feeding and all of those things. Follow what they're doing. If you can try and like eat when they do every couple hours, that's a great way to maximize your metabolism. And you're trying to shut it down just a little bit earlier, so that, and once we talk a little bit about sleep, setting ourselves up for like a successful environment when we sleep. So at least we can maximize the times that we're sleeping. Like Sharon, like you said, the sleeping is so minimal when it actually happens. So maybe we can maximize some certain techniques so that you can get the most out of your sleep. So for example, if we can make your room as dark as possible, that's number one. So even like those small little lights, like, you know, like the little lights that are like on the TV, like the power button, or like tiny little lights on your cell phone, try and turn that stuff off. Or like with my phone, I like turn it face down so that if a text message or an email goes off in the middle of the night, it's not going to wake me up. When we have screens on 30 minutes before we go to bed, whether it's a TV, a computer, a laptop, an iPad, a phone, that there's a blue light in there, and when we're looking at that blue light constantly, it decreases our body's ability to produce melatonin, which helps us sleep more. So I want to make sure if you can make an effort to even try and shut that stuff down half an hour before you go to bed, that'd be a great goal. We could open up a new book that you have to turn pages, right? Instead of maybe like reading it on your Kindle. So getting used to that to try and set your brain up and just kind of like decompress that way. One of the other ladies that we've spoken to listens to like the YouTube videos. She sets these YouTube videos, and they're like sleep YouTube videos, and she plays those, and everyone has been using them and seems to get better sleep because it's just like really peaceful sounds. So something like that they'll play that can just kind of like decompress your brain. Try and think about maybe even 5 minutes of just listening to like a meditation. And there's apps like that. There's tons of apps. It's not like you have to buy a CD or anything. You can just get a free app and maybe just meditating and trying to shut your brain down, because as females, for one, and moms, you're constantly thinking about everything that you have to do tomorrow. And so you may be laying there and your eyes are closed, but really your brain is racing. So trying to dedicate, instead of watching the TV or being on your phone right before you go to bed, let's try and shift that to something else, maybe reading, meditating, or listening to like a YouTube video. Trying to make it cool. Ideally, it'd be 65 degrees in your room. That's the optimal temperature for you to get like the best sleep. So it's really, really hard because it's going to keep getting hotter here for the summer. And like my AC does not come in my room that well. So I usually have a fan, or I'll open up the window before I go to bed, a couple hours before I go to bed, and try and keep that cool air in, just so that when I walk in, my room is nice and cool. Or getting the right sheets. Don't have like cotton sheets or flannel sheets. Get more of like a silk or a softer sheet that doesn't hold in as much heat, because then you're going to have a better sleep naturally. Same with like with your babies, if we have more of like a cooler environment. If it's loud where you are, they even have like white noise. It's called white noise, these fans that are rather loud, so that any external noise that may keep you up at night. For me personally, I wear earplugs just because I sleep like a baby when I wear earplugs. Because you guys have babies, that may not be the case. And they're like crying and you're like, oh, sound asleep. But maybe even an eye mask to be able to make it that much darker. I have a sister-in-law, she can't, she swears by it. Give me a couple things a chance just so you can like black it out, and at least you can get a little bit better sleep that way would be awesome as well. One of the other things just to help with sleep and then also decreasing your stress is find at least once a week, or maybe even once a month if you're really, really busy, time that you can at least dedicate to yourself. Like whether it's getting a massage or hanging out with a friend or going to a spa or getting a facial or even going on Groupon and getting something that's a cheap little facial. Or sometimes they even have those, all these places around West LA especially, they have like those $20 like foot massages. Man, just getting away and feeling rejuvenated, because you're constantly be feeling beat down, and you just kind of need a pick-me-up. And like last week was a really rough week for me, and I was like, oh my gosh, I just need to relax. I took like 1 or 2 days, feel so rejuvenated, and that's all you need just to be like a better mother, a better wife, and just feel like you're back on your feet. So don't feel like you don't deserve it because you're like, oh, I haven't even done anything, I'm just running ragged. You have to take time for yourself and make that a priority. Because if we can decrease that stress a little bit, then you're not going to be as hard on yourself. And again, we can continue this cycle in a positive way so that we can keep seeing that weight loss and keep seeing more exercise and making healthier choices. So it's not all about just what you're getting out of these 5 weeks, but it's all about kind of changing that behavior so that when you walk away from this program, you feel like, okay, I'm starting to work a little bit on my sleep. I know 1 or 2 ways that I can decrease my stress. You guys have learned a lot about your diet, and you're trying to be a little bit more disciplined with your exercise. And don't try and be perfect. And I was, like Annie and I were having a conversation about it. If you can just like pick one thing a day where you can just work on and just be like, you know what, I'm just going to try and do one thing better than yesterday, then it's an improvement from yesterday. So don't think that you're going to change that behavior all at once. You've been alive for, 30 some years. So don't think that you're going to change this habit in 5 weeks. Don't be hard on yourself. But I want you to think, okay, don't link 2 poor days together. So over the weekend, like if Friday and Saturday were just like out the window, I didn't exercise, I ate really poorly, whatever. Okay, cool. Forget about it and move on. But don't let more than 2 days go before you get right back on track. And let's say you go, and by doing that, maybe that means tracking your meals or calling a friend to make sure that you're staying really consistent. Be like, hey, I'm going to be calling you every day to tell you that I ate really healthy, or I'm going to tell you one thing that I did really poorly, just to like for encouragement. We all need people like that in our life, because if no one's keeping you accountable, you could eat that pizza at 12:30 at night and nobody knows that you did it. So that's why we love the tracking devices, because at least it shows you what you're doing, but also we can encourage you as well. So even moving forward from this program, have to find those accountability pieces, because even when it comes to working out, I train other people, but if I worked out by myself on a regular basis, I would never work out as hard. I have to have other people around me, and I'm always, so maybe I can push that person next to me, or I have that other person to encourage me. Same goes with your diet, and same goes with that stress piece. We have to have other people around us to kind of put us in reality. And like I was telling Sharon, I'm like, Sharon, you have so much on your plate. Don't worry about it. Like, you're doing a great job. You made so many changes from last week, but we as women, we're so hard on ourselves that we oftentimes only look at the stuff that we still have to improve on, not how far you've come. So sometimes just take a break. Take a second and be like, you know what? I'm doing this program. I'm dedicating my time, freaking logging my food every day. I'm trying to get my exercise. Give yourself some credit. And then from that, be like, okay, what's one thing I can do better tomorrow? Okay, I could probably cut out that glass of wine. Okay, I'm not going to do that today. I'm going to go a whole week without that. Or I know for sure, like you said, I'm going to get in 2 more days of exercise than last week. Okay, last week's over, so make up for it this week. We're all going to have bad days, and we're all going to have bad weeks. But think about over the course of the week or the month how you did overall. Because all we can do is just try and be better than yesterday. Just don't be that hard on yourself, because we're so hard on ourselves as women in general. And we're always just, we're always pinpointing all the little things that we need to improve on. So learning to relax and finding, bless you. Eating properly is going to help decrease your stress as well. So I want to make sure a couple things. Make sure that you're staying well hydrated, especially during the summer. And what happens is when we're trying to lose weight, fat cells break down into tiny little particles, into like carbon and oxygen and hydrogen. So people think that maybe muscle turns into fat or fat turns into muscle. They're 2 totally different tissues. So when fat breaks down, it breaks down these tiny little particles, and in order for us to completely excrete it out of our body, we need to drink a lot of water, so that either we're sweating it out or we're excreting it out. So make sure you're staying well hydrated. That's one big piece. And water also, like dehydrated bodies create cortisol. And what cortisol is a stress hormone. So when we stress a lot, something called cortisol is produced in our body, and it increases fat around our midsection. So you could be doing everything right with sleep and with exercise and with your diet. And if you're really stressed, that cortisol, if it goes up through the roof, good luck trying to see results. So that's why it's that much more important to make sure that those things are in check. Because cortisol can be kind of deadly. It's really, really frustrating for a lot of my clients. Like I have a couple clients who are like, high power attorneys, and they're stressed over their job. They work 80 hours a week. They have kids. They're just super, super stressed. And they're on point with their diet. They work out 6 days a week, and they don't see results. So that is a big piece, especially, Sharon, I hope you heard that part. Because I know that it's super stressful with all this stuff. And I know, starting a new business and trying to have a new baby, all that stuff, it can be very, very challenging. Decreasing. Yeah, for sure. Decreasing your caffeine and alcohol intake. Alcohol intake increases your stress response in humans, and caffeine can raise your stress levels if you're having too much of it. So, and basically with alcohol, what happens is alcohol and food go down the same metabolic pathway. So in order for the alcohol to be completely burned up first, it takes priority and precedence over food. So if you eat a lot of crappy food, make poor choices because you had too many drinks, your body wants to burn up all of that alcohol because it's more of a toxin in your body before it even starts to burn up the food. So you can see how that can kind of like slow the whole process of weight loss, aside from alcohol having very little nutritional value, obviously. So those 2 things are a big factor. And I would say the biggest thing with your diet that just wreaks havoc on your metabolism and your stress level is sugar, hands down. It's toxic. I mean, it's pretty much has the similar effects as it does with heroin and other drugs on our brain. So when you're stressed, try and have that be the last thing that you're trying to incorporate. Use some of the other techniques that are not necessarily food. So the less sugar you have in your diet, man, the more successful you're going to be. Even moving forward with this program, you're cutting down on wheat, on sugar, and on alcohol. Those would be, I would say, by far the top 3. If you're cutting those down, doesn't mean you're going to avoid it in general. We're always going to have, birthday cakes and, cupcakes or whatever. But if you're cutting that down as much as possible, you're going to see a lot of results that way.
Like wheat as in gluten or wheat as in bread?
Yeah, so gluten is basically like a type of protein that our body has a hard time breaking down, and it's in wheat. But wheat isn't how it used to be like in the 1900s. Basically, a lot of it can be genetically modified still. So they even say with some of the wheat, it's just as bad as white bread. So what I suggest is having like a sprouted grain bread so that their wheat isn't in the ingredients list, because gluten is in all of wheat. Okay, so like a sprouted grain bread or pumpernickel bread or a black bread or a quinoa pasta or brown rice pasta instead of a whole wheat pasta. That kind of takes it to the next level. But you are going to see better results that way. So good question. So overall, I just wanted to encompass the importance of all of these, and not just changing one thing, not just changing your diet or, just exercising, but really emphasizing the importance of all 4 for you to be successful long term, and taking some of these techniques so that when you're done with this program, that you feel like, okay, I feel like I have a good balance, so that you can sit back when something's wrong, you feel really stressed, or you're not losing weight, you can actually sit back and be like, what is it that's lacking in my life right now? Not necessarily my diet or my exercise, but what do I need to improve overall so that I feel like, okay, I can move forward to the next step. Use that accountability piece, and whether it's being accountable to yourself by tracking or having a journal or writing things down or having that accountability of a friend or family member, that's huge. Like, we always do so much more, we're always so much more successful when we're with a group of people and people that are cheering you on. And then being consistent with trying to go to bed at similar times, so that you're creating, it's kind of like I want you to eat at similar times as well, because your body gets on a routine and your body works kind of like a well-oiled machine when we can have a little bit more structure. So trying not to go too long without eating, trying to have some type of regular consistency with your exercise regime. And in turn, you'll have that less stress and will be able to achieve a healthy weight. So I just wanted to encompass all that, share some of that information with you guys. I'll use these next couple minutes if you guys have any questions. But that was pretty much what I had for you guys tonight. Can you think of anything you have questions about?
Is it better to exercise in the morning or the evening?
So the best time to work out is at a time that you will work out. Let me put it that way. Yeah, exactly.
Really, just any time.
Yeah, so just get it in.
As long as you do it.
Exactly. But I would have to say, when people are really hardcore and they're consistent with, let's say, working out in the morning on an empty stomach, it's a good optimal time for you to for a fat burning workout. I don't want it to be too intense, but if you could do like a cardio or some type of elliptical or hike in the morning, it's great because it kind of increases your metabolism. But don't let that be the excuse of I didn't work out in the morning, so I guess I'm not going to work out at all. So I want you guys to get it in whenever you can. And in the evening time, it just depends. Sometimes it helps people sleep better, and sometimes it keeps people up. So if you find that over a couple of times you worked out at night and you cannot fall asleep, you've got to shift it to a different time during the day. For me, I don't even care. I'll just fall asleep wherever. So I can work out at midnight and I can just fall over and go right to sleep. If you have a problem with that, then try and shift it earlier in the day. That's a good question, though. You have anything, Michelle?
No, I was listening intently.
Good.
Thinking just how that all is stuff that I think about and incorporate,
and how it affects all of us. No matter how good we think we can be, we can always improve on one of these. I can think of there's one in all of these that I know I can improve on. So it's just kind of a matter of just constant organization and trying to have a plan. When you can prepare and pre-plan your food and your exercise, you're going to be so much more successful. When people have no type of structure, just think of your kids weren't structured and you just fed them whenever, they fell asleep whenever, they'd be a mess. So it's think that.
That's good. That's a really good point. Put an asterisk by that.
Asterisk. Okay, I'll start that.
That's really true. You never do that to your kid. You never be like, oh, well, what do we have?
Yeah, it's well, I guess just eat this, whatever, and it's oh, you're tired, sleep, whatever, and then wakes up at 3 a.m, is wide awake, and you hate your life. So it's kind of a matter of having that structure for adults as well. We need that to be successful, and And a lot of times we just fall by the wayside because other things are more important. But if you get sick or, something happens to you, good luck having your family. Like, could you imagine if you were just bedridden and your husband had to do all of it? And he's trying to work and do all these things, and it'd be like, okay, this is just a mess. So we have to put that, all of these things as a priority and kind of self-reflect and see how we can improve. So, if you're not going to do that for your kid, don't do it for you either. They're on such a good structure, and we're going to be so much better when we have more structure. So either find a calendar or a journal or a day planner and start writing things out and be proactive about those things. Yeah.
I like the stress and the exercise because one day, and I'm not really answering like the personal questions anymore, but you're like, are you stressed? And I said, yeah, but once I hit those stairs, I just didn't really care. Like afterwards, because I was just so tired from everything that I'm like, things just don't seem as bad as they are. You know what I mean?
Definitely. And
you don't worry as much.
Yeah.
Because you're just, when you're exercising, because it's tiring.
Yeah. And you just had a second to kind of think about other things and just kind of escape for a second, which is such a great way to, to decrease stress anyway, because you get all these endorphins that are going, and it's it's the feel-good hormone that actually helps decrease your stress as well. And sometimes we just got to take a step back and be like, you know what? I have my health. I have a healthy baby. I'm super blessed. I get to live in this beautiful city. I have a husband that supports me, all of those things. And sometimes you just got to take a breath and be like, you know what, it could be a lot worse. My life is not that bad. And sometimes we just kind of need that reality check and be like, you know what, I always ask, okay, instead of stressing about the things that are wrong, let me just make a list of things that I'm thankful for, not necessarily things that I'm stressed about. It's like, you know what, it's all good. Things are going to work out. And they always do. And like I said, I had a week like that last week. Let me just take a breath and be like, you know what, at least we got a job. At least I got a healthy baby, instead of like I can't feed the baby. So it's all those things. It's all perspective and how we want it. Sometimes we just need a reminder of that and encouragement to be like, you know what, I can make it through. I know I can do this. So, well, I want to thank Sharon. Thanks for listening. Julie, are you still on the line? Did she have to leave?
Oh, Julie.
Okay, cool. Yeah, thanks for listening, you guys. And we're here to encourage you and help you in any way. And we want to build you up and help you really get the most out of this program as well. So always reach out to us if you need us. Okay.
Thank you.
Sound good? All right. Cool. Well, we'll see you guys in a couple weeks, and I'll speak to you this week.
Okay.